This is what it is, okay? I said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now, you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now, water can flow, or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
Welcome to the 24th episode of the Deployment Dojo. This is a live show where we introduce and discuss software installation topics using the WiX Toolset. I'm your host, Rob Mensching, and joining me again today is my very good friend and still first student of the dojo, David Edson. David, how are you doing, man?
Pretty good. How are you?
All right. I'm doing okay. We've got a lot to cover today because I decided to take some pieces, some ideas from the chat from a couple weeks ago. Miyuki asked us a question, how do you do this? And I decided we're going to try to tackle it, which means we have to learn a few extra things that we wouldn't normally have to learn, or I wasn't necessarily going to learn at this point in time. So that is going to be fun. I think that'll be good. Hey, and Miyuki's here, so that's good because we're covering the topic as requested.
Cool.
I think without further ado, let's go do that. All right?
Let's do it.
Okay. I think we also decided that we're no longer starting with a whole new source control, right? We're just going to pull it and open the existing project,
right,
and do a refresh. All right. So Dojo source, yes. Belt test, please open it. Now this is going to be left right where we were before. Opening up the project. Okay. And this is going to be left behind with some of our edits that we had floating around in our code that I want to talk about. And we also need to get ourselves on the main. All right, we're on main. I'm going to hit this button to hopefully sync and get our code all equal with whatever was on the server. I've never done this, so if this doesn't work, it's Visual Studio's fault. I'm hoping it just works and everything gets cleaned up, pushed together, all good. All right, successfully synchronized incoming, outgoing commits. Oh, that's interesting. That would have sent outgoing. I probably only want to do the incoming. Oh, well. I don't think I had any changes locally, so it should be fine. All right, what do? First thing we do is we get started on a new branch, episode 24. 24, David.
I know.
I mean, like, that's almost half a year. Think about that.
It's been a minute.
Branch name. Yes, check out that branch. This is a new UI. I did get a Visual Studio update, so there's that. Oh, and this is what I was looking for. This thing right here. Yes, continue checkout, please. All right, we're now in episode 24. WiX 4 RC4 also went out, David. We need to do that update as well.
Oh, okay.
Because that's the last RC. The next thing is RTM. Done. No more changes. WiX 4 is out the gates, and we're on to WiX 5. WiX 5. WiX 5. All right, let's look at what changes we have here, and I wanted to discuss them. Oh, and I totally forgot to do the feature research. I'm going to do the feature research. This is where we're playing around trying to get these things working. Right. We have so much to cover today, I didn't even want to go into all that. But I think, how about we keep the art product icon, right? Sure. That gave us a nice little icon, but we're going to get rid of these other changes that are left over. So let's close this diff and just go back to our one single main feature with our two component groups in it.
Okay.
So if we look at this change here, now it just says, hey, we've added our ARP icon, and that should be fine. Bob, I'm doing just fine. Bob, I see in the comments. All right. Miyuki, thanks for joining up. Martin, great to have you. As always, let's do our first step, which is to update our version number. And we'll go ahead and commit that. Save. Oh, yes. Thank you for reminding me to save that file, Visual Studio. And we're going to commit this as episode 24. And the title is to shortcut or not to shortcut, because that is what we are doing today. Should I put it up here? I'll put it up here. To shortcut or not to commit that. Okay. And then we said we're going to keep this change This change being our little add icon. So add ARP product icon because it looks nice. ARP product icon. Boom. All right. Let's get into it. So what are we doing today? What we're going to do today is we're going to add another shortcut. We're going to add a shortcut to the desktop. All right.
Okay.
Now, there's a lot of debate about whether you should add a shortcut to the user's desktop or if you should just add it to the start menu. I think the guidelines generally say don't put shortcuts on the desktop because that's the user's space. Some people have very clean desktops, like I do here behind us, just the Fire Giant logo and a couple windows. Some people have icons spread all over the place and you can't see anything but icons. So generally they say don't put things on the desktop, but some users kind of like having things show up on their desktop. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a shortcut to the desktop, but only if the user asked for it.
Okay.
All right. So this is our first if statement, but this if statement is going to be the user, which means it's not going to be during our build time. It's going to be during our install time. And if you remember, do you remember which variable we're going to have to use to have it happen at install time?
Install time properties.
Yes. Yes. Stick with your first answer.
Okay. Don't go any further than that.
Don't go any further. Stop right there. Yes, we have to create a property. We need a property that the user can set on the command line to our install to say, hey, please do install this shortcut.
Okay.
All right. So how about we go ahead and create the shortcut first?
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, I think that sounds probably the right idea. All right. So let's do that. We're going to copy this component and we're going to drop it right here. And I'm going to try something that I'm not sure it's going to let me do, but I'm going to try. And I'm going to say, I happen to know the standard directory is named desktop folder. How do I know that? Because I have it memorized. But if we go into our standard directory, you remember our standard directory, the place where we can see all of them, there's desktop folder, right? So we can use the WiX IntelliSense here with HeatWave doing all the, fill in the blank for us. There's desktop folder. So that's a well-known folder for the user's desktop, okay?
Okay.
Now, I don't actually need standard directory because it's a built-in one. I'm going to say put this component and have it install its stuff to the desktop folder. Now, I don't want to install the file there. I want the file to be installed into program files folder, into our install folder. Okay?
Right.
All right. So I'm going to say this shortcut I want to install to a new location, and I'm going to give it the same name as that one. And I'm going to say its directory is desktop folder. And I am not going to advertise it. So remember we talked about advertising, how we get that repair and that fault in behavior if we advertise the product and all those cool features.
Right.
We can only do that if the shortcut lives in the same component. Okay. So I want to show us here controlling this, installing this separate from that one. Actually, all right, no. I was thinking we could start here. We could, all right. Let's look at this for a second. I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to deviate from my script a little bit.
Okay.
I'm going to add another shortcut into this existing component and just have it installed to the desktop.
Okay. Just to see what happens or what?
Just to see what happens.
Sure.
Okay. And we're going to hit one of the first problems that we're going to have to talk about. And this is one of the things that we need to dig into, behavior about the Windows installer. Well, actually, we're not, because it's advertised. We're not going to hit this problem. It's going to work. Yay! We have a belt test MSI. All right. So far, so good. Let's look at our sandbox. Sandbox points at source, so we don't have to update our sandbox file. That's a nice step, isn't it?
Right.
Skip. All right. Dojo.wsb. Bring up the sandbox and let's install it. And hopefully, if everything works, we're going to expect to see an extra shortcut. Right?
Right. After you install it.
After I install it. Yes, I do need to install it first. All right, let's go ahead and do that. Belt test package into our bin, x86 debug ENUS. Here's our belt test package. Run. Preparing to install, doing its thing. Look at that. There's our icon, deployment app. And in here, when we go to all apps, there's our new deployment app. So there are the two shortcuts, both pointing at this application here.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and launch this one. Double click on it. And ta-da! Our standard valued customer is here. And if we refresh add remove programs, we see our nice little icon. All right. So we see the fire giant icon all over the place, looking awesome, right? Application running everywhere. This is great. Okay. So now I said what we wanted to do is only install the shortcut, the desktop shortcut, if the user said they wanted it. So that's the bad behavior, what we just saw there. Well, I mean, we got it. We proved that we can get a shortcut on the desktop. That's progress. But now we need to make it conditional. We need to let the user decide where they want to do that. Now, the things that can be conditional in the Windows installer are components. You can condition components and say, should this component be installed or not? Okay, so we could say, hey, let's choose to condition this component. What happens if we condition this component?
It'll ask you even before you install it if you want it.
Well, no, if we turn off this component, what do we get? We don't get anything. We don't get no file, no shortcut, and no shortcut on the desktop. That's not what we want. We want the app always installed, but we want the only want this desktop folder. So that means that we need a second component. All right. So we haven't talked about components and when to create more of them. When do you create them? Well, clearly you create them when you have separate files that you want to install in different directories, because components go to a directory. But you also do it when you want to control certain parts to only be installed to only be installed by conditions, or otherwise organize your files. Since we've only had one file and one shortcut in the past, it's easy to put them together. They always went together. This desktop one does not go together. We need to change this condition. All right. So how do we do that? Well, it turns out I've been using the word condition for a reason, because there is a attribute on components called condition. Now the Windows installer has a condition syntax, much like if statements have syntaxes in C#. Not X and Y equals some foo string or whatever, right? You've seen that kind of C# stuff, all that kind of things.
Sure.
All right. So the syntax that the Windows installer chooses is actually, for better or worse, based more off of Visual Basic. So we don't have bang, we have greater than, less than kind of things. Okay. So I can go try to pull documentation for, actually, let's go ahead and bring it up. Here we go. Windows installer condition syntax.
It's got like not and then some statement too.
It does. It uses the keywords not. Right. So here's the EBNF for it, roughly. And you can see here's our comparison operators: less than, greater than, less than or equal to than, greater than or equal to, equal, and equal equivalency is a single equals, not a double equals. And then also not equal to is the two angle brackets. All right. And then you have, if you want to have the not, it is not a bang, it is the word not, and or are also those words. Okay. So nothing, too crazy. If you forget it, you can just go for Windows installer conditional syntax, and you will get to this help, and it will remind you all of that. All right. Now in our case, we want just a true false, and we want to base it off a property. So it's very easy. We just put the property name in here. So we could call it enable desktop shortcut. All right. Okay. Why did I make that all capitals? You remember?
Sort of. I don't know off the top of my head.
Because all capitals are public, which means I can set them from the command line. If I made this mixed case, I would not be able to set it from the command line. Right. So I want this to be able to set for the command line, and that's all that I need there. So what have we done? This component will only be installed if this property has a value. Now that means any value. So the value 0 is a true value. All right. So if it has any value, that will evaluate as true. In our case, we have not defined property anywhere. Like we haven't in our code. It's brand new. I just made it up. So it will be nothing, which will evaluate to false. Okay.
Right.
Sounds good?
Yep.
Makes sense.
Sounds good.
So we would expect that if I installed this, would this shortcut, if I just double click the MSI, do we expect this? It would not install a shortcut. Exactly. All right. Now, Now we need to drill in to a little bit of the complicated part. Here we go. Let's go ahead and do the build, and we're going to find some problems. All right. Yes, all kinds of things. So the component ID, component GUID attribute is star, which means we're going to generate the GUIDs, and none of the values inside the Windows installer are, we don't have anything in this that allow us to generate a GUID. So I've been glossing over this because we've been able to avoid it, and I generally want you to avoid it. But components have GUIDs on them that the Windows installer expects to be set. The WiX Toolset is generating all those for you in a stable way so that it calculates them exactly the Windows installer needs it. But it can only generate them when you have like a file or a registry key inside the component. All right, because we don't have a file or a registry key inside this component, the WiX Toolset is telling you, I cannot generate the GUID for you. You need to do extra work. All right. I was hoping I'd get past this. Let me go ahead and just do this real quick to get past this. And I want to show you the next error that we're going to hit, because you can get sent down a path, create a GUID real quick, that does not lead you to immediate success doing this step by step. And that's why I wanted to go through this step by step. Okay. So behind the scenes, the WiX Toolset is generating this GUID for you anytime you have a component with no GUID on it for you. And generally, I recommend do that. Do not create GUIDs for your components unless you know you need one, or the WiX says, I can't generate one for you, and you know why it can't. Okay. So if I build this now, we're going to get a different set of errors because I've given it a GUID now. Oh, yeah. I need to give it an ID as well, because it can't guess the ID from anything. So let's go ahead and call this desktop icon. All right, another build. We're gonna get another error here in a minute, I expect. Yep, there they are. These are ICE errors. These are static validation errors. These are errors that the Windows installer team has gone out and said, these are important things that you should do correctly inside your MSI. And these are not going to make sense to people initially. And they are a constant point of discussion for us of the correct way to handle this. All right. So I want to take the second one first because it actually is pointing at a more interesting problem. When you have an advertised shortcut, Bob Hart's 20-year-old advice. Yeah. All right. When you have an advertised shortcut, what that is doing is, remember I mentioned all that repair behavior and all that other stuff that kicks in?
Right.
How does it know which file that it has to fault in and all that kind of stuff? Well, it knows because it's the file that's in the component with it. So if I mark this as advertised, which file is this shortcut going to fault in inside this component?
Okay. So it doesn't know to go to. Yeah, okay.
It can't. It doesn't know because there's no file in here. And it doesn't know that it can reach over and grab in this component because they're not the same component. The Windows installer will be like, wait, I can't fault in both the desktop icon and the Windows Form XE component at the same time. It's like, no, those are separate components. These are atomic units, and this is conditioned, and the whole thing just starts falling apart on you. All right, which means you cannot have an advertised shortcut unless you put it in the same component as the file. So shortcut file, this can be advertised. This works great, and I highly recommend this pattern for this shortcut. All right.
Okay.
So now you see why we didn't start with the shortcut on the desktop with the condition 2 weeks ago when we started doing shortcuts?
Sure.
There's a lot of pieces that we've just brought in all at once, which is this huge learning curve that you kind of have to jump into. So let's keep digging in. So if I don't say advertise and it doesn't pick this file, how do I tell it which file I want this shortcut to point at? Well, it turns out I can explicitly call out the target I want. I can say I want this file. Now the problem is, how do you say which file it is? How do I refer to this file over here? Well, it turns out I can give this an ID, and then I'll be able to reference it. All right. Okay. So let's call this Windows Forms App 1. All right. It's whatever name I want to give it.
Sure.
I don't have to put the XE on it. I'm going to give that name. And then over here, it's this square bracket syntax to say, hey, go refer to this file. You're like, wait, I've seen that syntax before. That's the same as like if I had enabled desktop shortcut, right? We've seen that before. That's how you get the value for that property. Well, it turns out there's a few more extra command line parameters or little widgets on the front that you can put. And one of them is this bang that says, hey, go give me the path for this file. How do you know that? Well, let's go back to our web browser. And the thing you look for is Windows installer. This one's not as clear. Windows installer formatted. I don't think we've talked about formatted until this point, right? I was able to gloss over this.
Right. No,
Oh, good.
not really.
Okay. So this is the lookup syntax that I was talking about with properties in the past. Here it talks about square brackets. Zoom. Bob wants me to zoom. I will make the text bigger. There we go. Better? There. All right. So you start with square brackets. All right. And then inside the square brackets, you have variable names. And it turns out there's a lot of characters. I'm scrolling. Oh, it's all in this big, huge wall of text. Okay. So as we saw before, square brackets with a name inside will give you a property name like this. All right. We've seen that before. That's how you get a property name back out. You can also do square bracket % and get an environment variable from the remote machine. So you can get the value of an environment variable that's on the machine that you're installing on at that time. All right. That's like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. We haven't needed that, but we'll keep that in mind in the future. The one I want to look at is this one. If it is the ID and the file key or the file ID, then it's replaced by the full path to the file. All right. So this angle bracket bang. Oh, did I do hash? I did. Oh, sorry, my mistake. I'll show what bang is here in a second. I want to use hash. Okay. So here hash is the full path to the file. So when the Windows installer sees this string right here, it'll go find the Windows Forms app where it's being installed to and replace its full path here when it is installing. Remember, these are evaluated at install time.
Right.
Okay. The other way I could do this, if you didn't want to, is also remember I could do install folder, right? Because directories right here, install folder, are also same as properties. And then I could put the name of the exe, which is this thing, right at the end. Right? So this would give me the path where this file is being installed to, and then I just stuck the exe name on the end of it.
Okay.
I could do that, but what happens if this exe name changes?
Yeah, then that breaks.
Right? You're like, oh, no, it's broken. And also, there's just nothing telling me that, oh, this is broken. That's why I much prefer the syntax of Windows Forms app, whatever I got here. This
whatever the ID is.
Exactly. Yeah. That ID, little square bracket. Because then, should I disconnect these, I will get a build time error that tells you, hey, that I couldn't find that identifier. Are you sure that's what you wanted? All right.
Okay.
So I told you there are a whole lot of things that we're going to learn in this one go that I've been working. But I wanted to touch on this because after this, I think we're going to move on from shortcuts. And this is a great example of all these different pieces. Here's a property. Here's another formatted syntax that we can use to get the path to where the Windows Form exe is being installed to. All right.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to build again because this is about the advertised shortcut. This shortcut is no longer advertised. Going to bring it around over here. There we go. Right. This shortcut is no longer advertised. It's a normal shortcut. It just says, hey, I'm a shortcut and I point at this file over here. Also notice I removed the icon from it because that's not needed anymore.
Right.
All right. When we build, look at the output. It's going, thinking about it. And now we get to the next thing to talk about. The desktop icon installs to the user profile. All right. So the user profile is the things that are pieces of the user that are private to each individual user. So if multiple people log onto your computer, they each get their own desktop. So if you were to log into my computer, you don't see the desktop icons that I have. And if I and then when you log in, you don't have to, you won't see the icons for mine, right? They're separate. Your desktop icons are separate from mine, as are your document folders and a whole bunch of other things. But program files folder, that place where we put the executables, that's shared between the both of us. Okay?
Okay.
Right. And when we're installing this program menu folder, given the way we're installing this MSI, that actually is installed to a shared location across both applications. So if you log in, you'd be able to see this app. And when I logged in, I'd be able to see this app. All right. So that's why this is in the machine location. All right. The per machine, there's one location for that program menu for the user when we're installing here. But now we're putting something on the desktop, which means that if I install this app, then I will see this shortcut on the desktop. Then if you log in, you won't see that shortcut on the desktop because when I installed when I got there, and my icons are separate from yours. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay, so this is a problem. If this app was pushed out, was put into an enterprise, everybody that has this app is supposed to get the icon get the shortcut on their desktop. So the Windows installer makes you use a piece of information that is in the user's profile, something that it can detect. And the Windows installer can detect very straightforward files and registry keys for that whole fault-in behavior we talked about. It can tell if a file's missing or if a registry key is missing.
Okay.
So for this to work, it's saying, hey, you're putting this component in the user profile. If one user installs it and the next user installs it, we need a way to tell a file or a registry key whether that component is installed for each user as they log in. This shortcut is not enough to stand by itself to say, hey, I'm on the user's desktop. If it's not here, repair this component. I wish it would. I wish the Windows installer would recognize shortcuts as another thing that could, but they don't. They need registry keys. All right, so we need to give it a registry value, and we need to put it in HKCU, the user's profile. So the Windows installer could tell, hey, has this component been installed for this user? First user installed it, they'll get the registry key. Second user logs in, registry is missing, the Windows installer can tell, hey, that's missing, and it can then fix it for us. Does that make sense? Yep. All right.
Yeah.
Software. I forgot where we're putting registry keys. Let's go look at who has this registry keys. Is it the console app? The console app has registry keys. Yeah, he has registry keys. Okay. I forgot where I was putting things.
Test.
Yeah. All right. So now this is really unfortunate, and this is a problem that we need to go follow up again with the Windows installer team and be like, can you guys change the behavior of this? Or how important is this to get this, like the detection between these multiple users? What is the badness if this registry key is not there for the Windows installer? Because you end up, for everything you end up putting on the desktop or other user profile locations, you end up creating these like placeholder registry keys to represent them. All right. So I need to come up with something valuable for this registry key to be. Otherwise, it's just really dead weight. So I'm going to call it desktop shortcut enabled. Value equals 1. That look good? Okay.
Okay.
So what's going to happen is that when I install this desktop shortcut, I will get this registry key, and the Windows installer will know, oh, you chose to install something to the user's profile. Oh, it was this shortcut and this registry key, and it will be able to tell whether it was there or not. So I've added some piece of information. Hey, maybe our app could read this registry key and know, do you have a desktop shortcut installed or not? Did the user choose to have a desktop shortcut? Then the app could do something. I don't know. I'm trying to add some tiny little bit of value to all of this. All right.
Right.
Now, we're going to build. Hopefully this gets rid of all of the errors. I'm going to have one warning left over that I will then talk about. Yep. All right. That's that. Okay. We're down to one warning. Before we talk about this warning, I want to talk one important thing. Remember when we added this GUID?
Right.
I said, I don't want that. You should not add GUIDs unless you need to. And I added this GUID because the WiX said you need to have one. Well, I have a registry key now, and the WiX Toolset will take care of all of this for me now that I have a registry key. I can remove the GUID again, which is another nice side effect of this. So I am removing that GUID. It's not there anymore. We're not doing any GUIDs, and we're just back down to this one warning that we're dealing with. All right.
Okay.
Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so far.
Okay, good. So that does have the benefit of having to add the registry key does allow us to then remove another GUID and maintain that GUID and keep it unique and all those guys. Because one of the problems with putting GUIDs inside your WiX source code we found is that people copy and paste them. And of course, GUIDs are supposed to be unique. They're not supposed to be copied and pasted everywhere. What we worked really hard to make it so that WiX Toolset would generate those GUIDs for you correctly. All right. So Martin's asking, how does it work for user 2? Does Windows scan for the supposed to be user registry keys at login? No, it does not. What this does is provide enough information for the Windows installer to know that if you ask for it, that the component is not there, but something has to trigger it. The Windows installer will not trigger it itself. So your app could go and say, hey, is this key here? And then check the status component. Nobody does all those kinds of things. That's why when you dig into all of the bits and pieces of this is a whole lot of ceremony that we go through that we have to get to the other side of to enable putting shortcuts on users in the user profile, that in the end is all based off of very, very old decisions in that advertising stuff I talked about. Remember the whole MSIX/J type thing and being able to push it out to your enterprise? A lot of this is rooted in needs from that technology where you guys probably hadn't even heard of it before we talked about it 2 weeks ago, David? 3 weeks ago? I'm kind of lost track.
A couple weeks ago.
You probably never even heard of it, even thought about it, because disk space is cheap now, so everybody just installs all the apps. So many of these little bits and pieces are because of decisions made inside the Windows installer and Windows that create these sort of behaviors. All right, let's go ahead and install this real quick. Oh, let's talk about this last warning here. This warning really bugs me because it's actually telling you something that's true but does not matter. What it's saying is that there's a mismatched component reference from one of our components, our shortcut with a reg key. So I could tell because it's shortcut and reg key. And it points at this app, which belongs to a different component. Okay. So it's saying that I have one component that has a reference to another component over here. And it's saying, hey, did you know that it's possible that this component could be installed without the other component? And of course, we're like, yeah, that's what we're doing. And it's a warning because in the end, we put it in the same component group, so they all travel together. So it's not a problem. It's not like these will become disconnected. You won't install, this file won't get installed if this component doesn't get installed, right? So this is all kind of a warning that's basically telling you, hey, did you know that you split these two things? This shortcut points at another component. And we're like, yeah, we did that on purpose. So this is one of the very few ICE warnings that you can ignore. And honestly, we need to re-implement this check inside the WiX toolset so that this one doesn't come up when we can validate that everything works out for you automatically. All right, so how many things have we hit that are just kind of random behaviors that you hit because we're trying to put something on the user's desktop folder? We created the condition. That's not a big deal. We had to give our file an ID so that we could refer to it across the shortcut across this target. So this reference would work. That's not so bad. And then once we had all this in place, we had to add a per user registry key so that the Windows installer would know whether this has been installed for that user per user's location. And this is the weird thing. And then the Windows installer complains that because we split these two components up where this file and the shortcut are separate, then we get this warning saying, hey, did you know you're doing that? So those last two parts, the registry key, having to create a registry key, and then dealing with this warning are the two things that are very annoying. We have thought about trying to hide all of this in the WiX toolset and just generate this for you, right? Such that you could just do component shortcut into the desktop folder, and behind the scenes, the WiX toolset would generate this per user registry key. We've thought about doing that. The challenge is, what registry key should we generate? There's a lot of choices I made here in these names and where I put them that are up to me as a developer that if the WiX toolset just generated for you, we haven't quite figured out a good way to do that in a good standard way across that would make everybody happy. Does that make sense, the challenge there?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so what we've done instead, because we haven't figured out how to solve it in WiX for you, we've pushed it onto the developer and everybody else has to deal with it. It's a not a good situation for either side in the experience on this. And it's something that, yeah, one day we hopefully can improve this, or maybe the Windows installer can do a better job handling these per user situations with shortcuts, because this is common enough that it shouldn't be a problem. All right, I'm gonna do one more build. Make sure that we have the latest one. Cool. That's good. Now we're going to spin up the sandbox. And let's start. All right, your choice, David. Do we go without the shortcut or with the shortcut first time?
Let's do with the shortcut.
With the shortcut. So to do that, we have to run from the command line. Right? Because we have to pass this property on the command line, at least the way we're doing things right now.
Yeah. Okay.
We will talk about other ways of setting this not via the command line in the future. We've covered enough new stuff.
I was wondering how you actually got it set. So
yeah, this is how you do it. How do we do it? We told somebody, by the way, if you really want a shortcut, if you really want to take advantage of all this work we did to create a user registry key and a shortcut and a reference to all this kind of stuff, you have to run from the command line. That's essentially what all the work we've done. We'll cover how to do more with properties in the future.
Okay. And so you set the property here.
Yep.
Yep. Although I can barely see it. I'm trying.
Oh, thank you. Remind me. I'll blow it up. There we go. Thank you. I forget. This resets every time. Enable. No, that's not what it's called. Desktop shortcut.
Yep.
What value do you want to give it?
Well, true, right?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Anything? 1? Yeah.
0 works. 1 works. 2.
Okay, so it doesn't even matter what you set it, huh?
It does not matter. Here, we'll do 0, and we're going to prove me right or wrong.
Okay.
I'm pretty confident here. I say that, watch, I'm going to be wrong and be like, oh, that's terrible. All right.
It's the one value you can't set it to.
No, I'm pretty confident, obviously. All right, here we go. This is a clean sandbox we haven't installed before. Let's look at our program files, x86. Yeah, so no deployment dojo folder here yet. No shortcuts for our apps. No D shortcut. All right, here we go. Deployment dojo, belt test, MSI exec, run. We have a shortcut on the desktop. And I don't know why it's not clean or it's not pointing.
It's not the right.
I don't know why I didn't get the right icon this time. Oh, is it because it's, I removed the icon from it, I think. Oh, I did remove the icon, I bet. All right. Yeah, okay, fine. We'll fix the icon here in a second. But there you go. Ta-da!
All right.
It works there, and it worked and enable shortcut equals 0, and it was there. And if we launch it from Deployment Dojo, that one launches too. And if we look inside our program files app, belt test is there. How about we just uninstall now?
Yep.
I accidentally clicked the organize, so it's sorting backwards. So let's fix that. Yeah. All right, so we should be able to do it again, but not set this property at all.
Right.
And if I install this, or if I double click it, which way you want to do it?
Double clicking.
Yeah, do you want me to do this one or double click it?
It doesn't matter. If it's the same, it doesn't really matter.
It's the same.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Run, MSI, run. Ta-da! No, look at that beautiful lack of shortcut on the desktop. It's kind of hard to see. Let's see. Did the app actually install? Yes, it did. Do we still get an app here in Deployment Dojo? Yes, it did. And we will go all the way down. And the only thing on the desktop is the recycle bin. Right.
Cool.
So we now can control from the command line whether we get a shortcut on. I'm going to uninstall it from the command line, not with the U switch, with the X switch, because why not? It's not like they used U for anything else, believe it or not. It's not that. I don't know why. I guess they want people accidentally doing U. All right, now we'll install it again. I'll make it a different number. I don't know, what did you want? You want a true.
Sure.
With a capital T like VB or a lowercase t like C sharp?
Yeah, we'll the VB.
VB, like VB. Woo! All right, here we go. True. It doesn't matter. There's our shortcut.
Okay.
All right, cool. There it is.
So we still got to fix that icon.
Yeah, okay, let's go fix the icon real quick.
All right.
We'll do that real quick. I did take the icon off of it. I deleted the advertise and I deleted the icon at the same time. All right, let's see if that builds, fixes it. I think it will. Should do. And there's our build. Build succeeded. We got our same warning. Bring up sandbox. Boom. All right. So Miyuki, this is for you. I hope you're still out there and watching all this, and I hope a lot of this makes sense. And when you asked, hey, can you show how to do a conditional desktop shortcut? This is why I didn't just do it right off the bat. I need to go from the command line again because I closed everything. And belt belt test package, bin, x86 debug, enus.
Yep, and
Make this bigger.
just a little bit. Yep.
MSI exec /I belt test that. Enable desktop. Why did I make this so long? Shortcut equals false. Doesn't matter as long as it's set to something. You know, we could have. All right, let's go ahead and do this real quick.
Yeah, just to make sure the icon.
Hopefully the icon's all fixed. Ta-da! Yay, icon's fixed. Yeah, I deleted too much code. We could have made this, you know, equal to 1. And that would only then work if you set the value to 1.
Okay.
All right, so let's go smart.
Sure.
What else do you want to talk about? Anything else? We've done so much here. I feel like I just threw you in the deep end of all of these little bits and pieces, but I wanted to get it out there and kind of walk through all these bits so we could see.
This is one I'm going to have to, you know, do another time too, just to kind of look at it and get a feel for it.
I think this might be an episode people new to WiX that want to do this will watch like 2 or 3 times. It's like, okay, what? Oh, I got it. Oh, okay, I got it. And like I said, this is definitely something that we can look at, that we're looking at, and it's like, all right, what do we do to make this better? And I mean, we haven't sat down with it a lot, you know, but like maybe we on a shortcut we can add, you know, a key, a reg key, you know, per user reg key thing equals, and then you could put this stuff there. I don't know, right? Some way just to not make so much effort here. Or maybe we just follow up the Windows installer team and be like, hey, let's just remove this. Actually, let's just try it. Let's just do this. Static validation. Right? That's the thing giving us this warning.
Right.
Let's go ahead and we can suppress that by listing that ICE 69. Lucky number ICE 69. Okay. So I'm going to do a build again. Watch the output. It's going to take a second. We're sparring. We're just kind of messing around here. I want to do one thing after this. Okay, cool. Passed with no warnings. Now there is the downside that all the ICE 69s have been removed, so you could look at the list on Windows on the MSDN documentation for i69 and say, okay, what did you actually end up suppressing by doing that? I want to now suppress this. Now I have to give it a GUID. All right, I'm going to give it a GUID. We're going to go back to giving a GUID real quick.
Okay.
And I want to see, because I haven't done this in a while, does everything work? Like, even in this situation, does everything end up working? GUID. That. Okay, let's see. If I build this now, I'm going to get some failures. Component ID was not found. Yeah, it's okay. I need to give an ID. Doesn't matter. So I'm really just kind of throwing things at the wall right now. No errors. And that's what I expected. ICE 38 and ICE 43. You know what I'm going to tell them? I'm going to tell them I don't care about those either. ICE 38, ICE 43. Okay, I'm going to ignore those too. Now these are errors, so I'm ignoring errors. This is definitely not something you should normally do. Why am I doing this? I want to see if it works. Okay, our build succeeded. Oh, let's kill our sandbox. Go away, sandbox. Thank you very much. Here we go. Let's spin up the Dojo sandbox one more time. Okay, what did we do? We took out the per user registry key, and we just left the shortcut in there with our condition and our GUID. All right.
Okay.
So basically, we've ignored all those things that I talked about with all that advertised stuff, and I just want to see, does it work? MSI exec switch I belt test enable desktop shortcut equals. Oh, did I change it? Did I give a value? Okay, I deleted the value. I was like, do I have to call it 1?
Nope.
But we'll put equals 1 just for good old time's sake. Boom, run everything. See, and everything works. So this is the other frustrating part about it, is that in the end, everything ends up working out okay, and you won't see any problems with any of this behavior until you try to go to a second user on the same machine. I don't know how common that is. It certainly is important, like internal services when people are terminal serving the same machine, things like that. So the weirdnesses show up there. So for a lot of developers, they're like, why do I need to do all this stuff? It just works on my machine. And yeah, as we saw, you can make it all just work, okay, but it will not work in all those advertised scenarios and across different users. So that's why you do it. You do it for a scenario that you probably never even thought about ever doing that. Miyuki asked if when you uninstall the app, did the registries get removed? Yes, I've now removed them. So let's go back, put everything back the way it was. Go back. All right. And I'm going to do a build back here in the background, just to show that the registry keys get there, because we didn't actually look at the registry keys, did we?
No.
Yeah. All right. So let's run it again one more time. Last one. Let's go ahead and look at the registry keys. I have to run from the command line again. All right. I should create a command prompt to do this for me. Build test package, bin, x86, debug, enus. All right, cool. And then we'll do our check-in, our final thing to wrap up for the day. MSI exec, switch I, belt test, enable desktop shortcut equals lucky number 69. All right, reg edit. 69 reminds me we need to go change our ICEs that I'm still suppressing. All right, so what are we looking at? We're looking at HK current user. Oh, that's users. I want my current user. Current user. Software. There is no belt test here, as there shouldn't be. Software. Oh, wait, in the WoW, sorry. WoW, there's no belt test in any of this. And the WoW, because we're x86, there's nothing here. All right, let's go ahead and do the install. Hopefully we get a desktop up here. Okay, now when we hit F5, we will see there's our belt test, desktop shortcut enabled under HKCU. So HK current user software belt test. I know this is probably small. And then under belt test, we have our customer and our addition. So there's that. Now we want to uninstall. Uninstall. Yes. And then we refresh. That registry key is gone. And wow, it refreshed this one already. The user I've got registered for us already. So there you go. All cleaned up for us. It's a nice thing. When you just declare that you want a reg key, you don't have to declare that you want to uninstall it. You just say, hey, this is my reg key. Please take care of it for me. Take out ICEs and things like that. All right.
Now, as a preview to, you said there was other ways to do the conditional, enabling conditional stuff that's not on the command line. What does that kind of look like? Is it a lot into that?
Yeah, like how about we create a UI and have a checkbox?
Something like that. Okay. All right.
We're a little ways away from that. We're not going to come back. I just wanted to kind of touch on this in the command line to show. All right.
Gotcha.
Oh, I want to change that because I want to turn off ICE and all. Where is my? I'm trying to double click on this here. There it is. Property. So we have added the suppress ICEs property to our project to suppress ICE 69 because that is the one that's creating our problems. So there's our diff. We've suppressed ICE 69, and we then look at Windows Form app. And what do? We have added a desktop shortcut here. That's all we had to do. Okay, one thing I want to look at this diff. All of these changes were within this component group. We have all that code all over the place in WiX Toolset, but we only touched this one file because we're just working with around this Windows Form app. We're not touching the console app at all because it doesn't have shortcuts. We're just in this one little file, and we didn't have to go change all these different files all over the place. This is the one thing I want people to think about when they're organizing their WiX code. How are you going to then come back and edit and maintain and find things over time? Here we have done it. So she was like, look, we just had to edit this one file and update the project file because we made the change to the ICEs, but it's like, that's it. These two changes, this is all that we did today. Nice, contained, small edit to everything else that's going on inside our project, right? That's code organization, things that people should think about. All right, so what have we done? We have added a conditional desktop shortcut to WinForms app 1. Commit. I think that's it, isn't it? I'm on this page.
Did you take the ice suppress stuff?
I did. I just did that one there. Let's see. Yeah. Can I 3 outgoing? Can you show me? Added the conditional this thing. And there's the, yep. See, there's the 2 changes right there.
Gotcha.
The ices and the Windows formats. There. Yep. See, those 2 changes all together. I figured they should go together because they're made all together, right?
Yep.
Perfect. Awesome. We're going to push that up, and then we'll kick off a build and everything like that. All right, Dave, anything else you want to talk about while I finish up creating the pull request, and we wrap this episode up?
I think you got it. I need to digest this one a little bit.
Yeah, like I said, kind of threw in a deep end. It was because, hey, if you show up in chat, you show up every week. I'm happy to get things in here. Martin has been in the show. He's done fantastic. Actually, he's helped us probably more than we've helped him with his translations for WiX code. But this is, yeah. So if you show up and you want to toss content in, I know some people have been asking things in the comments. I'm working up to some of the things that people ask for in the comments. And eventually we'll probably have to add UI and do some more things rather than always sending properties from the command line. Although that takes a whole different set of work. All right, there we go. And let's go create this pull request. Back to main. I'll let the build go and auto merge, confirm auto merge. It's any tool to map files that need to be installed. So, well, we will get to how you can get your more files installed in WiX as we go along. There's definitely more things to do there, Yoki. Definitely more things that we can do there. All right, I think that's it. We're gonna let this build go through. This should auto merge for us if the build tests or the build passes. It should. We've tested everything locally, and we'll be on to I guess the next week. Dave, does that sound right? Next week?
Good. Yep.
All right, this is a big one. Whole bunch of stuff went in here, but I wanted to get through the whole thing so that people can understand at least the whys behind why a whole lot of these adding items to the user's profile, like the desktop folder, is so much more complicated than it feels like it should be. Hopefully, this episode has answered at least all those top-level questions, if not all the reasons why you have to go into the windows deeper than what we've tucked here to talk about everything about it. But that's at a high level, the reasons why. All right. We'll be back next week doing the same thing. Another topic. I haven't decided exactly which one we're going to break into. This one took us a little bit off the beaten path, but I liked it. I liked that we got somewhere. So thank you for all of you joining us in chat. It's great to have you here. If you're watching this later, go ahead and you got this far. That means you are truly deep into all the WiX Toolset and all this deployment stuff. Leave a comment, leave an emoji, whatever you want. Heck, if you've been here for a while and you haven't said anything like Martin, Bob, and Miyuki have said, leave an emoji. I don't know, something like that. I think that's something you can do that with Window Dot now, I found. You can create emojis with Window Dot. You can see I have the Japanese castle I've been using a lot. I don't know. It's like, what else do you use here? So, Window Dot. Fun things like that. Anyway. It's just great. I'm just love knowing that people are here watching. Hopefully it's helpful so that we keep doing this from week to week. Well, until then, you guys keep coding. We'll be back next week. I am. Bye.
That's it.